Happy 1st of September. As promised, I'm dedicating this whole month to the rock and mineral specimen identification series, and I'm really excited about it. So I posted a reel of these rocks earlier. It says, I believe, like rare Septarian nodules found at the lake. Definitely check that out. It shows the fluorescence and what have you. So now we're going to take these specimens and do a little home acid testing. So I'm back with these beautiful Septarian pieces I found at Lake Pueblo on the South Shore Marina. Check out the other video with the luminescence under the long wave UV light. It precedes this. It says rare Septarians, something about the lake. Anyway, so now we're going to check to see if this is calcite, which pretty much anybody would say it is. I have a few reasons why I suspect it's not calcite, and we will discuss those, but let's get to it. So really super easy and relatively safe and inexpensive way to check is with basic white vinegar. It will effervesce, meaning it's going to bubble. It may make sounds. If you have calcite or aragonite, it's going to have a pretty strong reaction. So let's find out. Okay, I'm gonna pour some of the vinegar into just this thing right here, this measuring deal. And let's see what happens. All right, that's a lot of vinegar, so we will see a reaction if we do in fact have calcite. As we're waiting to see if a reaction happens, I will tell you why I believe it is not calcite, and that is because I read a very interesting study. It was done on the North Shore Marina, but it was the Septarians in Lake Pueblo, and very scientific, and what they said over and over again. So the crystals they found within the Septarians were calcite, barite, Ankerite, and Dolomite. And they said that in every case, the calcite had orange luminescence. Luminescence meaning the way it reflects under UV light, X-ray light. It was consistently orange. Check out the video I did prior to this. It says something like rare Septarians found at the lake. And because these are what we're going to study. This is part of the, rough stone rock identification series. I'm a certified gemologist, and I'm using gemology tools and what I have learned from just 3 years of pretty much full-time study of mineralogy and Colorado mineralogy specifically. And so I did not see much orange luminescence, so it made me wonder, are we looking at barite? I even suspected fluorite. Now I'm seeing some areas that are effervescing. See this little spot right here? Oh, it's hard to tell now. Is it, or is it just twinkly? Man, there are some beautiful crystals on here. Oh, look how it's reflecting the pink light. Okay, see how those crystals are reflecting the pink container it's in and how they're flashing? So that would be from the vinegar. That is some bubbling, or what in the industry is termed effervescence. That's actually really pretty. These crystals are amazing. They're very euhedral, meaning they have perfect shape, very reflective. They change colors in different lighting conditions from different angles, just very optically diverse. So these are really neat. And so where you see the pink bubbling or sort of flashing, that would be the reaction. Over here, I'm not seeing much. And notice these crystals up top. Those were the ones I suspected to be fluorite, and they are in fact not bubbling. They could also be barite. Barite crystals in Colorado are special. They're very, very gem grade, beautifully shaped, translucent. The pleochroic change colors, all sorts of cool stuff, which is pretty uncommon. So that's kind of something that's fun here in Colorado. If you look up the top there, you're going to see some bubbling. A little bit. So that doesn't surprise me. I mean, calcite's pretty much in everything, especially when you get into oceanic types of minerals, and everything used to be under the Western Interior Seaway. So at the ranch, at Manifest Ranch, there's just a real lack of calcite, and I believe it's the sulfuric groundwater. It just eats away at it, and it's hard for it to sustain. But here I am seeing a little bit. But check that out. So see that fun crystal up at the top there? Pretty reflective. See it kind of changing colors? So that's the bubbling. So again, where you see that kind of happening is the calcite. So if you're looking at this, you might be noticing a relative lack of reaction. Because as I said, anyone would say, just based on a picture, that this is all calcite. It's a septarian. If you read the article, it's like, oh, barite, ankerite, dolomite is very rare in these, it's very uncommon in these septarians. And I know personally at Manifest Ranch, which is about 11 miles from, west and south of the lake, dolomite, ankerite, and barite are very dominant, and calcite's virtually non-existent. So I know that there is more to the story, but again, very sulfuric groundwater at the ranch. But for considering what we're looking at here, the fact that septarians almost universally will say the crystals are calcite, and that's not always true, and that aragonite makes the veins that you'll see it on the backside. That's actually incorrect, at least in the state of Colorado. So you should be able to appreciate from this that yes, there are some calcite crystals. You can see them pretty clearly. They're at the top, that one down at the bottom. I think there's a little bit of action over here, but for the most part, this is pretty unreactive, which tells me that yes, it may have had some spots of orange luminescence or fluorescence, but I was correct in thinking that this is not calcite, which is pretty interesting. And those are some of the things we're going to get into, which is really learning that there will be a lot of generalizations, and many, many crystals can look like other crystals, and this would be a really good example. So let's see what's going on the back. Here we are on the back side. And as you can see, these veins here, they're certainly not effervescing wildly, which also lends credence to the fact that I don't believe that it is aragonite, because aragonite would do the same thing. So here in the black parts, you can see some bubbling, some flashing of the colors. Now, these are very interesting rocks, and you'll see that in the videos and the work we do with these, that these black parts actually we'll be finding out as a bornite. What exactly is it? Because the color that you're seeing is pretty common. To see different colors reflecting out of these darker parts and the veins. Now here at the top, where you see it flashing, sort of like twinkling lights, that's reaction. But again, not that much. And certainly as you look down the veins, you do not see that. So again, trace amounts of calcite, but calcite is far from a primary component here. We're just going to take a closer look before I move on to the next one. Beautiful crystals. I suspect they're barite, but I do also believe there is fluorite in some of these. So I'll show you some examples. Look at this. Okay, so see the lines on that? That's beautiful. That is, those are striations. We'll get into that. One of the things that I like to do is focus on some of the visual optical properties for narrowing down and identification, and there's some more. And that's something that is not widely taught with mineralogy or geologists in testing minerals, but it is in gemology. And the whole big purpose of my YouTube channel is to take the skills and tools and knowledge and hands-on experience that I've gained with the specimens I've self-collected at Manifest Ranch and say the lake like this, and apply them to rough mineral specimens. So that's what I'm doing. I'm the only YouTuber who is exclusive to Colorado in my research and testing, and a certified gemologist. So please subscribe. It's going to be worth your time. You're going to learn 3 years worth of training, formal education, research, all the documents I've created. It's going to all be available to you. Webinars. You're going to be able to ramp up very quickly to be able to identify your own mineral specimens or even gemstones. So if you subscribe, I am going to do a gemology official training that will be complimentary to my subscribers. So very pretty stuff, and as I suspected, a relative lack of calcite. So what we'll be looking for, there's definitely barite here, just by default, and kind of the way they look, I can tell that. And these cleavage planes, which is where you see the see how it shimmers when you move it, it kind of reflects. That's a cleavage plane. We will definitely get into that. But yeah, so I'm thinking barite, and we will also be testing for fluorite. Probably not today, but during this series we will be. And you're going to learn so much, and I'm really excited to dig in. So let's check out what the other one is looking like. Here's our specimen. Again, I'm just going to do some vinegar. I'll do a healthy dose. I mean, you should be able to get a reaction with literally just like an eyedropper full. So I'm kind of doing this to really drive home a point and make sure that if we do get effervescence, that you can see it. Again, I'm guessing there is a relative lack of calcite here, but we'll wait. So a lot of times, especially if you're using really strong vinegar, I've used some like 75%. Don't recommend it. No safer than using, the I guess some of the stronger acids like hydrochloric acid. It's the fumes are horrible. So, but I will say I've watched other YouTube videos, I've studied this a lot, and you should be able to see a reaction fairly quickly with just a dropper full. However, sometimes there can be a delayed reaction, so that's why we're giving it a minute. A lot of pretty colors again, reflecting off of these. Now, again, with Septarians, you're going to read Calcite, Aragonite, occasionally Siderite. Those are the main things you're going to read, and for the most part, it says Calcite and Aragonite, which, of course, I'm showing you right now is not true. I've been really studying these and doing tons of tests for 3 years now with the ones from my ranch. Again, these are from just the public lake, just on the South Shore Marina, just across from the boat dock. It was just this very plentiful, beautiful area with tons of septarians. In fact, I have a video about that you might want to check out that I filmed not too long ago in August. So I have determined Siderite, yes, but I believe sphalerite is a huge component in these darker crystals, which would make sense. That would make a lot of sense, and I'll get into why in a little more detail. I'm really not seeing much. I don't know about you guys, but I don't even really see colors dancing. So let's flip to the other side. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sure we have plenty on it. Plenty, plenty, plenty. Okay, there's some dancing. Now, the other thing to consider, though, I've noticed that the minerals, especially the dark ones, when you do put vinegar on them, or even like when I use hydrogen peroxide to test for sulfides and other metals, or biogenic material, which aka fossils, it does do this. I mean, it'll have some really pretty reactions to light. So you can see sort of as I move it, the purples and the pinks shifting. That's not a reaction of the vinegar. That is just an optical effect with the light. So I've found that to be pretty common, that these beautiful colors come out when whenever I put vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, sometimes even just water, you'll see this. So I'm suspecting we got Dolomite over here, possibly Ankerite. That could be some Jarosite, Allanite, or just some iron in the Dolomite. I'm really looking for some effervescence, and I'm seeing some. Okay, over there to the left-hand side as you're facing the screen, you'll see those white, very bright white crystals. See how they look like they're bubbling? So that would indicate calcite. There's some up there on the top. But everyone would tell you the black, the dark brown parts are calcite or aragonite, and as you can see, clearly that is not the case. So a little more calcite. Okay, and this kind of calcite, and you'll see this when we really look closely under the microscope and so forth on these crystals, and really talk about crystal shapes, habits, and so forth for understanding and identifying gemstones and, you know, crystals in the rough, in mineral specimens and rocks. You'll get an appreciation for it. But this type of calcite is actually, what do they call it? Iceland spar. And so it's the gem grade calcite, which is actually kind of pricey, which is surprising. So it's not as common as your everyday calcite. Up here I'm not seeing much. So once again, this is not all calcite and aragonite. Far from it. Alright, should I put, we're at 17 minutes. Should I just do some hydrogen peroxide just for the fun of it real quick? Yeah, oh my gosh, look at this. Do you see this at the bottom, this beautiful crystal? Look at that. Oh, that's so beautiful. Now that one is shimmering. So that probably is calcite. That looks like it's, like I said, that Iceland spar, or what else do they call it? Optical calcite, iridescent calcite, rainbow calcite. So this one has a little more calcite in it. And I suspected that those crystals were calcite. And so you can see what's shimmering and what's not. So why not? Should we do some hydrogen peroxide, or should I do a separate video? You know what? This is getting kind of long, so let's do a separate video for hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is interesting because when you apply hydrogen peroxide to your specimens, if you get the effervescence, which will be bubbling, and again, sometimes you can hear sounds. It's sort of like if you've ever put it on a wound, in the way it will react is how it will react on the rock. And that indicates, like I said, metals, and usually that is in the form of sulfides, which is metal ore and sulfur, which there is plenty of both in the area. Pueblo geology is much more interesting, diverse, and rich than any any of the research documents reference will indicate. No, it just hasn't really been studied. But we're going to. So that's what we're looking for. So what I use it for, because I know sulfides are pretty much, at least at the ranch, and I'm guessing with these as well, are pretty much in everything. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And so what I'm always looking for is it a fossil? And hydrogen peroxide can be very helpful for that. So without further ado, I'm going to stop this video, and please like and subscribe, and then check out my next hydrogen peroxide video. Thank you, and rock on.